Yeah, welcome everyone. I'm happy to see you, connect with you in our temple, in our virtual Gompa. And yesterday, we explored two methods to work with anger or relate to anger. And these three methods, Ken MacLeod calls them dissolving, employing, and transforming. And practice of dissolving refers to the practice of mindful anger, meaning to find the middle way between suppressing and acting out. So to give the energy of anger an internal space. And in that witnessing of anger, allowing anger to be felt without being overwhelmed by it, we have insights into anger, what anger is. We see that anger is an energy which comes and goes, and maybe we start to see the connection with our psychological history. And also with mindful anger, we discover that, I don't know if you could say always, but maybe almost always, that behind anger are other feelings. For example, helplessness or confusion or grief. And with mindful anger, we learn to address these underlying feelings. And we understand that violence in ourselves, and then we understand that also the case of violence in other people, that behind the violence, behind anger is pain, is hurt. So the second, what Ken MacLeod calls employing, refers to the practice of Tonglen. And in the practice of Tonglen, we kind of use anger as a stepping stone to compassion for ourselves and other people. And we use the practice of Tonglen to do that. And the third method, and that's what I want to explore a bit more today, the transforming, refers to the most simple practice. The challenge here, it is too simple. And it might take some time to have an experience what is pointed to in that practice of transforming. In the next verse, which is, I think, 21. Yes, 21. This verse is about desire. And the practice which Ken MacLeod calls transforming is actually the main practice in his commentary. So we have been coming across that practice already in previous verses, and we will get to that practice again. So there's other names for that kind of practice, and I just mention a few, so that if you have some knowledge about Tibetan Buddhism or other spiritual paths, so that you maybe recognize, yeah, I've heard that before, or I have experimented with that before. So this practice is often called awareness of awareness, or it is called meditation on the nature of mind, or it is called resting as awareness. It is in the Tibetan tradition, shared in the different branches of Mahamudra practice, and in particular also in the Dzogchen tradition. And it is the main practice in Advaita Vedanta. It is also the practice in Christian mysticism. Of course, they use different terms and different approaches. And there's a very interesting book by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. It's called The Heart of Meditation. And it is a talk he gave in... It is a transcription of a talk he gave in a Dzogchen center. And in the first chapter in this book, His Holiness says that it is the recognition of innermost awareness. Innermost awareness is the translation Jeffrey Hopkins chooses for the Tibetan word Rigpa. So in this book, His Holiness, in the beginning, he says that the recognition of Rigpa, the recognition of innermost awareness, is where actually all Tibetan lineages come from, where all Tibetan lineages rest upon, and where all Tibetan lineages in the end lead into the recognition of Rigpa. So one could say it is the heart of the Tibetan tradition, and many people would even say it's the heart of all mystic traditions. I hesitate how to continue because we are venturing with this exploration into what is in the Buddhist teachings called an experience which is undescribable and ungraspable. So it is not an experience of the conceptual mind. It's almost it almost feels wrong to call it an experience, because the word experience in itself is dualistic, because it implies someone who is experiencing something. But the recognition of Rigpa, the recognition of innermost awareness, leads into the dissolution of the experiencer. It leads into the dissolution of the narrative self. And in the experience of Rigpa, there's neither something nor is there someone who is experiencing it. So that's why it's sometimes called emptiness, the experience of emptiness. So the experience of emptiness is not nihilism. So it is an empty fullness. It is the non-dual experience. And sometimes people feel that, to explore the question of non-duality and non-dual experience, we have to go into other tradition. But actually, the Mahayana tradition, and particularly the Tantrayana, is a non-dual tradition and leads into the experience of non-duality. So one way to kind of share this, or it's also called a transmission. It's like it's not a transmission in the sense that something is given to you which you don't have. So in the transmission, something is pointed to you which you are always, also in this moment. So it's not, it's more like in a transmission, something is uncovered within you, which has been, is, and will be. So one way this transmission can happen and is through what is called self-inquiry questions. This is also this kind of questions, they are sometimes used in the Mahamudra approach, where you are invited to become curious about the nature of mind. So, and in our first quiet sitting, I would like to come up with some of those questions. I give you an example of this kind of question. So, no, before I give the example, one thing which is really helpful to kind of relax into from the beginning is these are not questions which are meant to bring you into the conceptual mind and find a psychological or philosophical or spiritual answer. So it is, these questions, they are supposed to trigger a certain kind of looking. And they are kind of an invitation to trust your intuition, a different kind of knowing. Usually when we talk about knowing and we say, I know something, these are functions of the conceptual mind. We can explain it, we can share it. There's like words for it, there's images for it. So that's all part of the conceptual mind. But in the knowing of Rigpa, we have to go into another kind of knowing. And this other kind of knowing is so radical different. Sometimes it's called not knowing. In the Zen tradition, for example, it's called not knowing. This is obviously very frustrating for the conceptual mind. It could take years to try to figure out conceptually what is emptiness and what is the nature of mind, reading all the books, and there's whole philosophies around it, and they become more complex and complex. But that's not the experience of the nature of mind. The experience of the nature of mind is immediate, and you get to know in a different way. And maybe the closest I can come up with is it's the intuition of your heart. So of course now we could think, oh, what's the intuition of your heart? So try not to go there. So if this word intuition of your heart doesn't mean anything for you, just drop it. But it could be that something kind of in you lights up. Yeah, I know that there is a sense that my heart knows already where's my home. And it always has known that in a non-conceptual way. So I give you an example of a self-inquiry question. Who are you? So, and this is now already happening. So we are already in the meditation. It's just a bit more lively meditation. So, and you can just continue to do what you do. So there's no particular posture, or so it's just it's independent from posture or ritual, or it's also independent from how you feel. If you feel rotten today, that's completely fine. If you feel good today, it's completely fine. We are talking about something else. We're not talking about feeling better or feeling, it's much more radical. Also, it doesn't depend on how distracted you are. Yeah. So in the Buddhist training, there's a lot of emphasis. First, you have to calm your mind through shamatha practice. And there's value in that, but Rigpa doesn't care. I mean, the sky, the sky stays the sky. If there's a little bird kind of flying or there's thunderclouds coming, the sky is just the sky. and it remains innocent. It remains untouched. So the bird flies and doesn't leave any trace behind, and the thunderstorm comes through and it doesn't leave any trace behind, and the sky always prevails. So and that's like, that could be a bit of a metaphor what we are pointing to in this practice. You know? So the sky-like nature of our mind. Another powerful metaphor here is the mirror and the images, the reflection in the mirror. So with almost all Buddhist practices, what we do, we work with the reflection in the mirror and we try to optimize them. We try to calm them down. We try to make them more compassionate. We try to relate to the images in the mirror in a different way. We start to see, wow, when I resist the images in the mirror, then I suffer. If I'm relaxed with them, then I suffer less. So that's all on the level of the reflection in the mirror. So now, sometimes naturally, but also sometimes because we approach this kind of instructions and this kind of teachings, suddenly the question arises, hey, yeah, the mirror, the reflection in the mirror come and go, but within what? Yeah. So we shift our curiosity from the content to the container. We shift our curiosity from what we are aware of to that which is aware. So I give you an example of that kind of question. Who are you right now in this moment? Who are you without referring to thoughts and mental images? Who are you without referring to memory? Who are you without referring to feelings, sensations, stories like I'm not good enough or I'm wonderful? Or who are you without referring to your name? Who are you without referring to ideas of gender? So all that are conceptual, is a conceptual level of mind. But who are you if you're not referring to that? Right now. So what we see is that feelings and thoughts, they come and go, but you remain. So you here with a capital letter. If the thought you're having right now is gone, you are not gone. You are still there for receiving the next thought. If the mood you are today, maybe you feel stuck or heavy or tired, and that will pass, obviously, like, because everything will pass. It's like a cloud coming. So when the mood you're in today will start to move, and maybe even tonight it will be gone, you are not gone. You, with the capital letter U, you will be there to receive the next mood, the next cloud. So, and now you can probably observe your mind trying to think about this, yeah? So what you do is you just recognize that as thinking, as thoughts. Not aggressively, just, in the way you look at the table and you think, okay, that's the table. So in the same way, you notice, oh, that's a thought. But who are you? Who am I? Who am I if I don't refer to that thought? So that's it. I mean, that's the only practice we need to do. if we get this, yeah, that's it. That's awakening. Yeah. And initially, there's that kind of glimpses, kind of a moment, like we experience a shift, something opens up. And everything I say today, you have to keep very lightly, because otherwise I couldn't say anything. Yeah, because I mean, even if I say something opens up, that doesn't make sense. Something which is already completely infinitely open forever can't open up. Yeah, but there is an experience maybe of opening up, where it's a shift. The sense of identity relaxes around the content of your experience, kind of the I am. So when we say I am, often there is something, yeah, coming after, like I am really a good person. I am old. I am shy. I am married. Yeah. So, but here we relax that part, the identification with something, and we fall into an I am, which is unconditioned, which has no characteristics, and then even the I am disappears. And then there is only beingness. Then there's only this, without separation. So a few more kind of things which might be helpful in this practice of self-inquiry is, so in a way you could say what we are trying to do is to become aware of awareness. But when we look for that, so when we search for awareness, we will never find it, because it is from where we are looking. It's not an object. It's from where the looking comes from. So it's more like a dissolving into from where the looking comes from. So you see, even the description, awareness of awareness, is bullshit. Awareness can't be aware of awareness, because if you look, no, what you're looking for in this meditation is what is looking. What you're looking for in this meditation is that which is looking. And that's why you can't see it. You are it. And you are it already, right now. And you have ever been, and you will be. By the way, what I just said, what you're looking for is what is looking, is a quote by a Christian mystic, Franz of Assisi. Yeah? What you're looking for is what is looking. So that's one thing. And again, we try not to think too much about it. Yeah. It just prevents maybe years of trying to find awareness, trying to find your mind. With what? With the mind. You have it already. Yeah. So where's my mind? Where's my mind? And that which is looking, that which is asking the question, is what we are looking for. It's amazing. So this is a little bit like, imagine you're sitting at home at your couch, and you have nothing to do, and you're sitting there. And then somehow the thought arises in your mind, wow, I really wish to sit on the couch and rest. And then you look around in the room, yeah? So where's the resting on the couch? Yeah, and we look and we look and we search. And in comes the meditation teacher. Yeah. And he said, and you say to this meditation, wow, I really wish I could rest on the couch while you're sitting on the couch. But because that's where you're looking from, you can't see it. And then the meditation teacher just says, relax, baby. There's nothing to do. You are already sitting on the couch. You're already home. There's nothing you need to do. And then, yeah, so you are sitting there and you don't believe it. And then the meditation teacher tries to kind of comes with scriptures and tries to convince you that everything is fine as it is and that you're already home and that there's no path and there's nobody walking a path and that, yeah. And then finally he gives up. And then he says, okay, go to the kitchen, make yourself a tea, make 10 push-ups. And then you turn around and then you walk back to the couch and you sit down. So that's a bit what meditation is. It's just like, trying, making the tea, making the 10 push-ups because we are not trusting that we are already sitting there resting on the couch. And then when you're in the kitchen and you have done the 10 push-ups and you have done the lam rim and the 9 stages of shamatha and accumulation of merit and purification, then at one point you look back at the couch and you think, oh shit, I have been sitting there all the time. But I didn't notice it. I didn't see it. Yeah, so the last thing, which can prevent many years of trying to find awareness or resting in awareness or something like this, or is it's ordinary. So much so that in the book, from His Holiness, The Heart of Meditation, the recognition of innermost awareness, it's called. His Holiness actually uses as one of the terms for that kind of mind, he uses this word, ordinary mind. It's ordinary. It's not dramatic. It has nothing to do with Kundalini, awakening, heart opening, being one with everything. These are experiences which come and go. But within what? And yes, in that deepest rest, particularly if you were in a contracted space, intensive experience can arise. Yeah? So energies can move, traumas can dissolve, and it can be, the experience can be dramatic, but that will come and go. So it's too simple and too close, as they say in the Dzogchen tradition. And it's independent from your spiritual CV. Actually, if you have a long spiritual CV with this and that, that could be rather an obstacle. Could be. It's not meant to be an obstacle, obviously, because every practice that's within the Tibetan tradition are meant to lead into the practice of non-duality, but we can kind of get attached to that. And like we have invested so much into the gradual path that it is very difficult for us to let go and to see to accept and see the simplicity of it. Oh, this can't be. This is for super meditators. Yeah. So that's just like a bit of maybe a bit of a bit of yeah, so to kind of lower the possible expectations and then missing the simplicity. Yes, okay, so let's continue this just in a more kind of meditative a bit. So I will slow down my talking a little, but it will be the same. Yeah. So so in this, so I invite you to kind of assume a posture, but avoid to make this like a special event. Like, okay, so now there's a meditation and something special might happen. We're not looking for something special. We're looking not for something extraordinary. We're looking for the extraordinary, which is always already here. And assuming a bit of a different posture can be helpful, but again, it can be also an obstacle. Yeah? So it's tricky. Anyway, let's pretend that posture and, you know, and settling the mind, that is somehow helpful. So in the beginning of our meditation, now we are in the business of first you have to go to the kitchen and make the tea and make 10 push-ups. And then you are in a good place to turn to awareness. Yeah? So that's the beginning, the entry protocol of Mahamudra meditation. Yeah? And of course, that part has benefits in itself, yeah? Because it feels good to calm down a bit. And so you can also close your eyes if you want. Or leave your eyes open. So it's really about what feels comfortable for you. So you allow the body to stabilize, to find a kind of balance with gravity. And there's a shift, a gentle shift from being in the head to drop into the body, to slide into the body. And in this gentle sliding, and this can be supported with the in-breaths. In that gentle sliding, you unhook from the thoughts. So here, thoughts meaning inner dialogue and mental images. So you unhook from that. And with that, you also unhook from the sense that you are like a rider behind your eyes, you know, being on top of the body and looking down onto a body. So you relax that notion. So your awareness slides down from the head through your throat, through your shoulders and chest into the trunk of your body. And welcoming the guests in the guest house of the body. And then you also open the soundscape. So you open your awareness to sounds around you and from your computer. And if you have your eyes open, then there's also what you see, open to that. And initially, it might be helpful to have a kind of a very gentle, really relaxed kind of shamatha practice, meaning that you have a bit of an anchor with the breath, or with the sensation in your hands, or with another pleasant or unpleasant feeling in your body. But it's light. So the emphasis is more on open awareness, with a bit of grounding, with a bit of stabilizing, if that's necessary. And you maintain the direction of unhooking from thoughts. So thoughts continue to come and go, but you kind of, you don't touch them with awareness. You gravitate towards a thought-free space. A bit like in an ocean where the surface is turbulent and you kind of dissolve into the depth of the ocean, which is still and vast. And the waves continue to move, but you don't get involved. You don't get caught. And then in the out breath, there might be the possibility to release in your shoulders and in your belly, release effort, release the doing, release the grasping. So what can be helpful here is to remember that we are breathing together, and that we are breathing together with the intention of bodhichitta. So to wake up for the benefit of all. And that we are surrounded and supported by the presence of the Buddha, the presence of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa. So their recognition of innermost awareness is all around us. And sometimes people, when they meditate, they have a sense that it is kind of active, that they need to modulate their attention and reaching out to the object. And now I invite you to get a sense that actually in this moment it is receptive. You don't do anything. So you receive the breath. You receive the sensations in your body. You receive the feelings. In the same way the sky receives clouds and birds and planes. Or you receive the content like a mirror receives the reflections in the mirror. So you can really, really relax. There's nowhere else to go, or there's nothing to do, nothing you need to understand, nothing you need to do right. You can do right, or you can do the wrong. There's nothing to do. And the receiving is also effortless. The sky doesn't need to make any effort to receive the bird. And resting in the midst of your experience as it is. So this practice is non-fixing, non-manipulating, non-interfering, non-controlling. And then returning. And here again, it's sometimes helpful to have a bit of an anchor, like the rising and falling of your belly. But you do lightly, gently. And the emphasis is on open awareness, panoramic awareness. Just noticing and resting. And the noticing is effortless. Things come to you. Rest. Just rest. And stay. So the conditioned level, the level of the reflections in the mirror, that's obvious. So this is what you hear, what you feel in your body, pleasant and unpleasant, the movement of the breath, the thoughts, and then there's also the sense of I, the sense of me. So all that is conditioned mind, Sam, the display of your karma, the reflection in the mirror, the clouds in the sky. The movie on the screen, the actors on a stage. And you are aware of all of that, right? You notice. So even the the appearance of an experience there, of a core within the experience, is a reflection in the mirror. It's something you can be aware of. Like if you have a sense of I in the body somewhere, that's something you're aware of. If there's a mental image of your body or the sense of the body sitting in a chair, that's something you're aware of. So one way to describe this process is to talk about making a backward step. And thoughts are recognized as thoughts. So if there's a thought of, oh, I think I don't get it, we'll just recognize it as a thought. Or there's a thought, oh, that feels good. It's a thought. Or this is boring, it's a thought. So now a question, and that is, so thoughts are coming and going, sensations are coming and going. Is there something which is prior to all of that? So when a breath, and the sensation of the breath for a moment, relax, what is there in the gap? Or if the thought you have right now subsides, dissolves, there's a gap. And then the next thought arises. But in what? So you keep your body relaxed, your awareness open, maybe with a bit of centering. What is aware? What is experiencing this? And if there's a thought arising, as an answer, you recognize that's a thought. What is aware of that thought? So whatever your experience is, you receive the experience, and you use the experience as a way to go beyond with your heart, with your intuition. You go towards that which remains. like the mirror remains and the sky remains. So if there's distraction or confusion or restlessness, that's all fine. These are the reflections in the mirror. What is experiencing that? What is experience confusion, boredom, joy, peace? The experiences come and go. They are impermanent, non-static, but you remain, you with a capital letter U. But what is that you? So you make a backward step in the deepest I am, without I am getting stuck somewhere on the conditioned level of mind. I am. What's the deepest level where you are most deeply yourself? What is that? And then even the I am dissolves. And then you rest. And even so, the rest here is the dissolution of the you. Resting. So what is your real face even before you were born? Who am I? If I don't refer to the reflection in the mirror. Who am I? I'm aware of thoughts, I'm aware of feelings, I'm aware of sensations, I'm aware of sounds. What is aware? Where is the knowingness, the looking? Where is that coming from? What's the source? Make a backward step into the source from where the knowing, the looking comes from. And do you find any boundaries? You're aware of the room you're sitting in. You're aware of this meeting. You're aware of New York. You're aware of the earth. You're aware of this solar system. But what is aware of all of that? To whom is it happening? To what is it happening? And then you just pause and rest. And then, of course, you get caught. You get carried away. You get identified. You try to figure it out. And then you start from the beginning. So short moments repeated again and again. Short glimpses of not knowing. Yes, so and then we slide out. And when you open your eyes, see if you can include then the visual channel also. Maybe there can be a bit of less contraction and identification with the mini-me somewhere behind your eyes, but rather like a kind of a sense of openness and a sense of not really knowing where that which sees, where that comes from. Usually we have the sense that our eyes goes out, but if you kind of just stay in that openness and you receive what you see, you might get a sense that it is actually not seen by you as the little me. There's seeing, of course, there's the experience of visual images, but the knowingness pervades all of that. So there's several possible responses to this kind of meditation, to this kind of inquiry. And one is you don't understand anything, and that's good. But something in you lights up. Somehow you feel drawn. Yeah. There might be also frustration and confusion. But something in you kind of responds to this and feels drawn to it. And another response could be that you think, I don't get it. This is not, I'm not interested. Yeah. So that's also fine. Because I mean, you can spend so many lifetimes, continue to go on the Lam Rim and do your practices and things like this, and that's beautiful and wonderful. And also in this lifetime, at one point, like if in 10 years you hear something like this, and this was what happened to me. So if I first, like 20 years, one of the first kind of pointing out instructions I got from Sogyal Rinpoche. And he was just kind of basically saying, just rest in natural peace. I couldn't handle that. It didn't mean anything for me. Nothing responded in me. So, and then naturally my mind, my interest got into the progressive path. And that's wonderful, beautiful, and wholesome. And then the second pointing out, kind of, it was not like traditional pointing out instruction, was in Kathmandu by Chökyi Nyima Rinpoche. He's kind of big here in Denmark. And he just said to me, your problem is that you are thinking too much. And I think it took me 10 years to start to understand what he meant. Yeah. I mean, there's kind of levels to that. Yeah. So there's like, yeah, okay, I can see the compulsive thinking. That's, that's a troublemaker, and I don't need to beat myself up with my own thoughts and things. So that's one level. But really to see the problem is that we think too much. That was quite something. So it took me like 10 years to take that in. What is interesting, I don't know if I shared this here already. In my first interview with Lama Zopa Rinpoche, like 20 years ago, and this was during my first 1 month course, November course. He said to me, after some time, you drop all kinds of practices, and the only thing you do is to meditate on the nature of mind. And I thought, wow, that sounds really good. I didn't know how long after some time that is, can be, like after some time you just meditate on the nature of mind. So he didn't say that, how long, but it sounded short for me, like after some time, sounds like a few months, or something like that. But that's not what he had in mind. But that's, so, I mean, that teachers, lamas like Lama Zopa, they always say that what is exactly the right thing for the person to hear. Yeah? And with that simple sentence, he really hooked me. And I'm also, in retrospect, I'm so happy about having heard that from him, because when you work with him as a teacher, you might think it's all about doing stuff, more of this, more of that, and you get one, it's like piles of practices and piles of practices. But this first kind of pith instruction from him makes it possible for me to take the gradual path practices serious, but lightly. And while you walk on the gradual path, short moments, glimpses of what Mingo Rinpoche calls Buddha moments are present. And they make this journey of the gradual path fun and light, and you don't take it serious. You start to see there is nobody here walking a path to somewhere. So is there any question, comment? So maybe you can interrupt me if something comes up. So first entry one is sensual pleasures are like salty water. The deeper you drink, the thirstier you become. So that's like similar when we start to explore anger. What we often hear in the beginning is how, in this case, desire, or how anger creates suffering for us. Yeah. And so particularly this is really pointing to the experience that thirst, your thirst, yeah, and here not in a literal thing, like your thirst, your seeking, your longing, the deep dissatisfaction in your heart can't be distinguished, can't be satisfied through any kind of experience. Not the most beautiful thought, not the most beautiful experience will bring you home. That recognition leads to what is called renunciation. Because you see, it's hopeless. It's hopeless to get somewhere where everything is fine. Where you say, oh, that's now good enough, I'm whole, I'm complete, I have arrived. The seeking mind, which is the loop of the narrative self, yeah, the loop of the narrative self will not stop, because that would be its end, and it doesn't want to die. So the seeking mind can't be satisfied by finding something, because then it will kind of maybe relax a little. Okay, so now I got my iPhone, or I got this nice experience, and then there's a bit of relaxation, but then immediately it comes up with what's next. So, but here, at least in the take Ken McLeod gives us on this, the conclusion here is not to avoid pleasure. Yeah. Actually, from a tantric point of view, the conclusion is rather, how can I transform pleasure? For what? For the recognition of the nature of mind. That's how we learn to transform pleasure. So we learn on the tantric path to bring together energy and space, bliss and emptiness. We learn to experience pleasure without grasping. Why? Because that's then our stepping stone to the recognition of awareness, to the recognition of Rigpa. So we use the mind, which is suffused by pleasure without grasping, for a meditation on emptiness. But still, we are not expecting the experience of pleasure in itself to make us whole, to satisfy us. We gave up that hope. So, and then he says, any object you attach to, right away let it go. Yeah. So, and that's the So letting go, what does it mean here? Yeah. And the practice of letting go here in the commentary of Ken MacLeod is the practice of relaxing into awareness itself, relaxing into you as awareness. And with that, you see the empty nature of what you are attached to. So you make a shift. You make a shift of identification from the reflection in the mirror to the mirror-like capacity, to the knowingness, and you see the emptiness of the reflections in the mirror. You see that they appear vividly, like a rainbow, but they don't have, the reflections, the appearances in awareness, they don't have any core. They are not solid. They are like a rainbow. They vividly appear, but closer you get, more you look, less you find. So recently I talked about this, and someone asked me, so what's the purpose of this? I had a hard time to answer that question, because for me, I don't need any reasons. Yeah, because it's just there's nothing else to do for me in my life, and it was always like that. Yeah, even as a teenager, I didn't have any choice. It's like no, if you are like a writer, like a real writer, I mean, kind of, what's the purpose of it? I don't know. I just can't help myself. It's just like, I have to write, otherwise I will die. Yeah. What's the purpose of that? It's just, so the question kind of, I mean, the answer kind of goes beyond any kind of purpose, any kind of wanting something. Because it lets go of any agenda, but yet it is the most precious thing, the most meaningful thing. It's the end of seeking. Yeah. But then, to my kind of do a bit of marketing for, for the narrative selves in our, so I mean, the main process which is listening to these teachings is the narrative self. Yeah. So we need to give that part also, that process, something, something where the narrative self thinks, oh, this is something I want. Yeah. It's a Buddhist marketing strategy. Yeah. To lure the narrative self into the path by making some promises. Yeah. And one way to make it a bit attractive for someone on the path is to talk about the 5 wisdoms, which are innate in Rigpa. So resting in Rigpa, or resting as Rigpa, would be more, because there's nobody resting in Rigpa. So, the experience of Rigpa is a big disappointment for the narrative self. So here, I mean, and maybe that's not a good marketing strategy, but this is not for you. It's not about you. It's not like, then I'm going to feel better or something like this. No. But when we would say resting as Rigpa, so meaning resting as the mirror. So, and of course, I'm not talking about a thing here. It's more a process. Maybe it would be better to say resting as the mirror-like capacity. The resting as the mirror-like capacity. And there's no I there anymore. Yeah. So the mirror-like capacity is just one of the 5 wisdoms. So the kind of the mirror here we are talking about has more capacities than just mirroring the reflections. And one of the capacity is what is called the all-accomplishing wisdom, I think. I should have looked it up again before, but I think it's called the all-accomplishing wisdom. So what that means that in the mirror, which we are kind of pointing to here, in that mirror-like capacity, there is not only the reflective capacity, but there is also a knowingness what is the most beneficial thing to do or to say in each moment. And this is not coming from any kind of agenda, not from kind of knowledge, not from thinking things through. It is a spontaneous manifestation of benefit, which sometimes are called enlightened activities. And that is part of that mirror-like capacity of awareness, of Rigpa. So and I guess that's something we all of us, we can somehow recognize in us because we are here now. Somehow the Tibetan teachings on bodhichitta and the compassion and so somehow is attractive to us. Yeah? So the kind of the intuition in you not to want to harm, the intuition in you to be of service. It's a bit of a maybe heavy word, but kind of maybe I can say it kind of quite radically. Also, there's problems with that. I can see that, but I just say it. It could be that you have a sense that you are here to serve. And, I know about neurotic serving and stuff like that. Yeah. So I'm not talking about that. There's also the little girl who wants to be nice because that's what she learned and she is afraid not to be nice and to say no. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something deeper where something in you which broke through probably quite early of just a sense that something wants to come through you, and that something which wants to come through you is love. It's wanting to serve, it's wanting to heal, it's wanting to make other people happy, but not in a neurotic way. In us, it's always kind of mingled up with some neurotic stuff. Yeah, but there is something genuine behind. Sometimes we lose connection with it because we get exhausted and the neurotic helper takes over, but there is that kind of a call. Yeah. So, and that, that is like kind of a taste of that innate capacity. It's like coming, like Rigpa shining through you. Yeah. And of course, you will, if you are in touch with that, what I'm just pointing to, bodhichitta, or you could maybe better say ultimate bodhichitta. You will never be satisfied until you embody that completely. Yes, Teresa.
Yes, hi. Are you saying that the 5 wisdoms are like an expression or a manifestation of Rigpa?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Which is an inspiring model to have, because in the gradual path, we think about those qualities rather as something we develop. Like, there's compassion training, there's wisdom training, there's patience training, there's ethical training, and this approach, of course, has its place and its value. But here, in this kind of approach, we realize it's more an uncovery of something which is already there. So from the point of view of Rigpa, we don't need ethics. We don't need the 5 guidelines. We don't need to have the 59, 49, I don't know how many Bodhisattva vows, yeah, 46. We don't need all of that, because out of Rigpa, there comes only non-harming. Of course, while we are it gets tricky here. Yeah. So when do you think when do you think you are ready to put all your money onto Rigpa? Yeah. At one point you have to do it. Yeah. But there's, of course, we can imagine that there's people around who do it too early. Yeah. And then they believe their actions come from, this intuitive wisdom, but it actually comes from a shadow aspect. Yeah. So they feel, yeah, I'm beyond rules, because Rigpa knows what's best. My Buddha nature is guiding me. My heart is guiding me. But actually, what is guiding them is their shadow, and they don't know it. So my strategy is, at the moment, is to kind of celebrate the gradual path while also seeing the emptiness of it, like in the Heart Sutra. Yeah, there is nobody there walking the path. There is no path. There is no goal. It's all empty. It's made up. The whole thing is made up. It's made up out of compassion, of course. It's not made up to make our life difficult, but it's made up. But while I do this kind of stuff, I imagine myself to walk on a path to somewhere. Sometimes, and every day, I create spaces for myself where I put all my money on Rigpa. and then it depends on, kind of also the way I teach kind of is on a continuum, yeah. So and it depends a bit on my own state. So because I can share these teachings only when I'm there. Otherwise, I feel completely as a liar, you know. I mean, of course, I can say some sentences I have memorized, yeah, like about the nature of mind and things like that. But I can't, I just, it hurts my heart if I notice that I'm like a parrot, yeah. So that's, so often I feel very relieved to move within the structure of the gradual path teaching, because that's where I am, and that's what and that's something I can teach and something I can send. I can make a PowerPoint presentation from it, yeah? So it's something I can explain, it makes sense to people. But then I also, I mean, I love most, what I love most is when I'm able to authentically explore innermost awareness. That makes me most happy. But if I'm screwed up and neurotically attached with the content of my narrative self, you know, then I can just, maybe then I would read a poem or a text about non-dual awareness.
So Jennifer has her hand up.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Stephan. Yeah, I had a question about the role of bliss and joy and loving kindness when it comes to Rigpa. Because, you know, that's what sort of motivates me, the freedom, the subjective experiences and helping others get there. And I'm just wondering if that's also an inseparable part of Rigpa, or is that still, you know, like a conventional way of experiencing things?
Yeah, it's definitely not Rigpa. So whatever you can describe, whatever you can, you know, whatever you have a sense, oh, this is coming and going, and sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not there. So that's definitely a sign that it is a conditioned experience, which is, but as I mentioned it before, but in the kind of in the release of the experience of Rigpa, most likely there is some experience of bliss, some experience of joy, some, yeah, but so Rigpa is the condition for those experiences to come, but they also they subside, they become less, and this is also helpful in terms of starting to get a sense of what Rigpa is, that it is not connected necessarily with feeling good. So no matter how coarse the conceptual and the conditioned mind is, Rigpa is always there and is always pervading it. So it's independent, you know. So it's not that you can rest as Rigpa only on good days. You also rest as Rigpa on bad days, because good and bad days come. So, sickness and illness and loss and being criticized will continue to come, but all of that is surrounded and pervaded by Rigpa. Yeah, so that's why in the Dzogchen tradition, they don't emphasize so much as in the Gelug Mahamudra tradition, this teaching, first you need to calm your mind, first you need to have, like, it has to be calm, it has to be relaxed, it has to be compassionate. So the Dzogchen approach is more, no, Rigpa is everything. Rigpa, it doesn't matter how you feel. So if experiences of relief and joy and bliss arises, that's wonderful. It's so important to be nurtured by it and to give that space and pause in it and soak in it and share it. So this is very important. But then a possible further step in that moment could be, okay, what is the way of that? So you again make a backward step. And do you realize, and you start to experience, yeah, wow, there's actually something even deeper, and that's something which is more nothing than a something, or better said, it's neither nothing nor something, goes beyond this kind of dualistic thinking, bliss and non-bliss, peace and non-peace, still and not still. It goes beyond that. It goes beyond happiness and unhappiness. It's the big happiness. The big happiness, which includes small unhappiness and small happiness. Okay, we need to stop, but Pat?
Yes, I know we need to stop. I just wanted to share and maybe ask when you were saying in the meditation to take that step back.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, this is a death.
Mm.
This is a death. And then my nervous system kicked in,
Yes.
and I felt very nauseous.
Mm.
Yeah. So I just wanted to put that out there.
It's a very good sign. So that experience.
I'm not so susceptible to bliss.
Yeah. The bliss part or the joy part, that's one possible response. Yeah. But what you describe is almost a necessary response. And so far, I haven't met anyone who didn't go through that kind of experiences. Because, yeah, it is. It is the response of the narrative self, of that identification, and it is a death. It's also sometimes even called the ego death or something like that. Yeah, and so of course one can be gentle with oneself, but on the other hand, it's good to continue to push towards that and embrace that fear, learn to be with it. Because it's also the fear of death, which will come upon us anyway soon. Yeah, so if something like this arises in meditation, we can also see it as a kind of opportunity to be less terrified in that process of dissolution in death. So. Again, actually, the kind of the main instruction in all of that is to make a backward step and to ask, what is the way of that? So you use also the fear as a way to continue the backward step. Yeah. Because that which is aware of that fear is not afraid. That which is aware of this fear is unconditional love, is pure love, is ultimate bodhichitta. Yes. So in the recognition of Rigpa, coming home, you could say, to your true home. Well, not coming home. You're not even coming home. So, first, there's nobody there. And it was always like this. It is already like that. No? So in that experience, which is not really an experience, but so in that uncovering, you are boundaryless and timeless. You are connected with everything. And then naturally to that, and naturally from that, then comes an immense care, because in a way that you are not there, but on another way, you are everything. So from a self-centered point of view, right now we are identified with this body. From Rigpa points of view, we are this planet and more. Yeah, I mean, and you can't say we are, because there is no we, there is no I who could be identified with the planet, but it's boundaryless. So it's naturally now in this, at the end of this session, to kind of within our heart, which is mostly confused, yeah, but still within our heart, to reach out, and share. And it's not even a sharing from someone to something. The sharing is spontaneous. It's just, it doesn't need to be directed to words, and it's just like boom. So it's everywhere. So if you have a kind of a drop of experience, a taste, in that instant, your presence, your love, your unconditional love is everywhere. So that's like empty dedication. Nobody is giving nothing to everyone. And then of course you can shape that with may everyone be happy, and so on and so on. But kind of the non-dual dedication is without words. It's just like boom, it's all love, and I love everything, and there's no I, but still it's just love. And also everyone is safe on an ultimate level. The sky will prevail, love will prevail. Everyone is already saved. So with awakening, with the uncovering of Rigpa, awakening is the whole universe awakes. Okay, thank you very much. And see you
Thank you,
next month.
Stephan.
Yeah. Take care.